dare you to put it in your mouth. Come on, girl.
We have disturbing and gut-wrenching video that you will not be able to believe took place inside a special needs classroom in an elementary school in Texas.
Quit chewing on things.
Now, 2 teachers are facing charges for allegedly hitting a nonverbal boy with autism, and the superintendent for allegedly trying to cover it up. We're on the case presented by Law & Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Teachers are supposed to be superheroes, and the majority of them are. But what we're about to show you is a story that is making a lot of people angry in Texas and around the country. The story happened in the community of Millsap, which is 45 minutes west of Fort Worth. Here's the logo for the local independent school district. Its slogan, "Your child, their dreams, our mission." This is the woman who was the superintendent. She just resigned over this scandal because of what deputies say she did and didn't do when she first learned of the alleged abuse. Now, here's her name still in the staff directory. 2 names that we didn't find in the staff directory were for these women: elementary special education teacher Jennifer Dale and paraprofessional Paxton Bean. Now let's get to the video that first started surfacing through local media reports and social media around March 10th of an alleged incident that happened inside of Dale and Bean's classroom on February 18th.
You're going to come in. Did you see the answer page?
Friday? That one?
All right, I'm going to go do my attendance. I dare you to put it in your mouth. Come on, girl.
I'm not going to show you the moment of impact, but according to KTVT, the mom of the alleged 10-year-old victim, who is nonverbal and has autism, identifies that woman as the teacher, Jennifer Dale, allegedly winding up and swinging at that young boy. Dale then is seen walking out of the room, but this incident is not over.
Come here. See? Looks like a dog's got a little.
What's that say?
I'm gonna hit you.
Now, the woman in the pink with her legs crossed, sitting back in that chair, allegedly just yelling at the 10-year-old boy, then hitting him with what appears to be a dog toy, is Paxton Bean, according to KTVT. She is the teacher's aide for the classroom. The video continues.
Quit chewing on things. Is it counting down?
That video is really hard to watch. The boy's mom told the local CBS station in Dallas that an adult in the room took out a camera to record what happened after the boy was verbally assaulted in the classroom. The mom said on Facebook that her son was allegedly abused on a daily basis at this school. 11 days after the boy's mom said she was first made aware of this video, the local sheriff posted this on social media announcing the arrests. Jennifer Dale was charged with official oppression. Paxton Bean charged with injury to a child and official oppression. The sheriff also announced that the school's superintendent, Edie Martin, was arrested and charged with failure to report, intent to conceal. The sheriff is not only accusing Martin of not reporting this alleged incident when she was made aware of it, but also lying about having reported it. According to deputies, the incident that you saw in this video happened on February 18th, and the person who took the video allegedly reported it to Martin the next day on the 19th. Deputies then say that Martin called the school district's law firm to commission an external investigation and did not report the incident to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services or the local sheriff as required by state law. Deputies say a witness told Martin to report the incident to Child Protective Services and law enforcement, and Martin allegedly told them she did make a report to Child Protective Services by February 20th, but deputies say that didn't happen. Deputies say that Martin filed a report with the Texas Education Agency, or T, on February 28th for one educator, then did for the second educator on March 3rd. The sheriff's office says it wasn't notified of the incident until March 4th, and that was because a parent called them, not Martin, they claim. Now, the boy's mom says she wasn't made aware of the incident until March 10th. This story is certainly getting a lot of attention in the small community of Millsap, Texas, and in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Here's a statement by Congressman Mike Olcott, who represents Millsap in the House of Representatives in Washington. He said, quote, "I am especially disturbed that these individuals who were hired specifically to care for students in the special education program would subject such vulnerable children to this type of abuse, and if the teachers are convicted of abusing these children, they should never be permitted to teach in a school again. Now, the congressman also said the Millsap ISD Board of Trustees is meeting tomorrow to discuss a separation with the current superintendent. I expect the board to fully consider what took place and discover if any other faculty members participated in or attempted to cover up the abuse that took place. I want to thank our partners at Upside for sponsoring this episode of On the Case. Upside's a free app that gives you cash back when you buy daily essentials like gas or groceries. I use Upside every time I fill up my tank now. Head to the gas station, fill up the tank, got roughly $7 cash back at a place right by my house just for filling up my tank. Here's how it works. You download Upside, claim the offer inside the app. You can use it not just pumping gas, but maybe you go to a convenience store, go out to eat. All those offers are on the app. You pay with your debit card or your credit card like you normally would, and then you get cash back. It first goes into your Upside app, and then you transfer it over to your bank account. So if you want to download Upside, you can scan this QR code on your screen or click the link in the description to this video. And if you want to find out just how much money you could get back, use promo code OTC, and that will give you an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank of gas using the free Upside app. The Board of Trustees met the next day in an emergency meeting, and several parents gave fiery speeches calling for Martin's firing. Here's what the mom of the boy in the video told the board.
We moved here a little over 2 years ago, specifically for Millsap ISD. We came from a very large school district and thought Millsap was the best place for my son. I never thought my son would be assaulted by 2 teachers, and also never expected the superintendent to hide it from me. Oh, sorry. Edie Martin waited 21 days to tell me my son had been assaulted. She had that video in her hand for 3 weeks. It took her 3 weeks with that video to let me know what happened. She decided to just wait. I was okay with her. She is legally required to notify CPS and the Sheriff's Department within 48 hours of suspected child abuse. This was not suspected. There was literally a video that showed it. Amen. Did she do that? No. No, she didn't. Instead of calling the people that could actually help in this situation, she hired an external investigator. She also refused to give me anything in writing telling me what happened. I'm just supposed to take her word. The same woman that failed to report my child's abuse, she literally got arrested yesterday. I'm just supposed to take her word. Like, what is that? Oh, my son can't speak for himself, so it's my job to do it. And I can't do that when you wait 21 days to tell me what happened to him. Amen. I'm his mother, so I decide what's best for my son, not Edie. It's not her job to decide what my son needs and what he doesn't. It's her job to make sure my son gets the education he deserves and to make sure he's safe while he's at school. And she failed at both. Amen. She may not have abused my child. She may not have abused my child, but what she did is unforgivable. I'm coming to you, the board, to do what Edie failed to do. Protect our children. I do not believe our children are safe with Edie as superintendent. If Edie remains superintendent, you can get used to seeing my face because I'll be at every single board meeting from here on out until y'all hear me and do what needs to be done.
The board took no action at that meeting on March 21st, but on Monday night, the board announced that Martin submitted her resignation and the trustees accepted it with a 6-0 vote. WFAA TV reports that Martin will not receive severance or benefits. It also turns out there are some family connections between one of the suspects and the school's principal, who is now on leave. KDFW TV reports that the suspect, Paxton Kendall Bean, is the daughter of the school's principal, who is now on leave pending the outcome of a third-party investigation. The station reports that the school's assistant principal is also on leave, but is expected to return to work in a limited capacity. The board voted to establish a new anti-nepotism policy where employees can no longer be supervised by an immediate family member. Joining us now to talk more about this story is Carla Waymeyer, certified family law specialist. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. This video is outrageous to watch. As an attorney, what goes through your mind when you're watching this play out in this special ed classroom in Texas?
I think just not even as an attorney, just as I have children, but as a human being, to watch somebody who is charged with caring for a child treat the child that way, it's absolutely astonishing. It's disheartening, and it makes you really question how it could have taken place. And it sounds like it happened more than once.
Right. And it's just apparently there was some sort of verbal abuse allegedly going on in the classroom. And then there was this adult who was the person who took the video, who then it prompted them to start recording. And then so really what we're watching could just be a glimpse into what it was like on a daily basis. The mom believes it happened on a daily basis. How would you go about, I mean, from a legal standpoint of proving that, how can you prove that it happened more than just in that snippet that we have on camera? And fortunately, the camera was rolling and captured these incidents.
I don't think it's going to be very difficult to prove. I mean, not to sound, not to jump to a hasty conclusion here, but the mother on that clip that I saw said that the child was nonverbal and that he was quick to learn the words no school, home. And so that just tells you just how traumatic the experiences this child was having were in this classroom. And it leads me to believe, and I think that any reasonable person would believe, that this child experienced these traumas on a regular basis and that the traumas weren't minor. I mean, what are the odds that the individual that took these videos captured them on the one time that they took place? I think it's unlikely. And I think the other issue that's going to make this quite easy to prove that it was something happening on an ongoing basis is if you watch the demeanor of this woman when she is abusing the child. She's so nonchalant about her body language. It just makes it look like this is just another day in the classroom, right? Which leads me to believe that that's just how she acted.
That stood out to me too, and watching that was, she's laid back, sitting back in this chair,
Mm-hmm.
her legs are crossed, and like the first thing that, for me was just like, what type of teaching is going on in this classroom? Like, what is the activity in this classroom? And it's so frustrating to watch. And then now, as things are being peeled back and this timeline from deputies is being put together, that not only was this video taken and then presented to the superintendent of the school, that the first move she made was to call the school district's law firm and look for an external investigation, is what they called it, where the law says in Texas, you need to alert the authorities. And she allegedly didn't do that. What do you make of that approach, that the first phone call she makes is to a lawyer and not looking at this video, being like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? And then just taking the approach of contacting the authorities?
Right. Well, a couple of things there. It's not uncommon for entities to contact, their legal team when they sense that there's, trouble on the horizon. But most troubling, in my opinion, is the fact that there was a rule, there's a law that says that she had an obligation as the superintendent to report this to a specific authority. So, I'm an attorney in California. This occurred in Texas. I'm not sure what the authority would be called in Texas, but nonetheless, she was supposed to report it to a certain entity and was supposed to do it immediately. And it sounds to me like the superintendent, instead of reporting it for the purpose of ensuring that this would be recorded right away and that evidence could be captured and maintained in such a way that the investigation could be properly done, she was more worried about protecting perhaps herself or the people around her than protecting the children. And that is highly troubling because that's a breach of the duty that she owes these children. And that is a major issue that I have with her behavior.
And also, it's like, what is the payoff in hiding this video and not reporting it right away, looking at it clearly? This is whether or not the law will find it as abuse. I mean, this reaches a bar pretty clearly of how you're just not supposed to treat people, whether or not it's a special ed student or not. it just, in your experience, when you look at some of these cases, and unfortunately we've seen them where people do not report it to the authorities. Why is it? What is the motivation for not going to the authorities and instead trying to take this route where it's almost like you're allegedly suppressing this story from getting out?
It's hard to say what people are thinking when they take these unfortunate steps. But in my experience, I think that people really just in that moment are more concerned about themselves than about doing the right thing. And that's really what it boils down to. The superintendent was probably more worried about what's going to happen to me and what does this mean for me and the consequence for me than doing her job, which is to act in the best interest of these children. And, she, in my opinion, she's a public servant. As the superintendent of the school district, she is a public servant and she is there to serve and protect these children. And part of that responsibility that role carries with it is to follow the rules. And some of those rules involve reporting abuse like this to the authorities. And she failed to do that because she was more worried about protecting herself. And I think the motivation was probably, oh gosh, can I avoid this video coming out and maybe I won't get in trouble, right? So I think it's really just as simple as, can I keep this from coming to light, sadly.
Yeah, sadly, and almost you think too, if you reported it, I mean, you're the person that, if you're a parent, you would want the superintendent to do this, and you would look and be like, thank God that we had this superintendent in charge because she was the one who saw this video and reported it right away. But instead, according to deputies, she took a completely different path.
Every entity and every, even if it's a private business, a public entity, they all have their own policies and procedures with what they have to follow before they can terminate somebody. And the truth is that we don't have all the information yet. Just like you said, this is an ongoing investigation and we don't know the whole story, but I have to be honest with you. That video is absolutely horrific. And I don't care what you say to me. There is nothing that you could say to me to convince me that behavior is acceptable. There is not a darn thing in the world that anybody could say, I think, to a reasonable person to convince that reasonable person that behavior is acceptable. And so whether the superintendent, actually, I think whether the policy was in place or not requiring her to report it, she should have reported it. And so, whether she gets terminated or not, that's, I guess, to be determined. And so it is a delicate situation, but it really boils down to children go to school. And as parents and as loved ones, we drop our children off and we expect them to be safe when they're at school. We expect them to be nurtured. We expect them to be respected. And when that doesn't happen, it's a problem.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I said it in the beginning for this, like where, teachers are supposed to be the superheroes. And I think in many ways, the majority of them are, but then we see some of these cases coming up. I mean, this is unfortunately not the first time we've seen some of these incidents caught on camera. Just in your experience, how common are these types of stories? And maybe a better question would be, like in a state like California, what some of the laws are. And we certainly see in Texas that there is a law that is in place that you're supposed to meet, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that when you see a case like this happen, you have to report it to the authorities. How has that evolved over time?
I think that as a general society, we have progressed in a lot of ways in the way that we protect children and vulnerable populations in our society. But I do think there is a lot of work to be done. And this is a good example. I think that even though we have tried to implement rules and procedures to try to make it so that when you are in a certain role, like the superintendent for example, you are obligated to do certain things to ensure that the rules that are in place to protect children are in fact protecting children, right? It's not always working, right? So the question is, are we learning from these occurrences? And are we actually doing things to make these procedures more airtight so that they don't keep happening again? Because I think that's the real issue too. In California, in most cases, I know that, teachers are mandatory reporters. So if a teacher sees, even if they're aware that there's abuse going on at home, they have to report that, right? So of course, in a situation where there's abuse at school, that of course would need to be reported. So again, as a society, we are doing better, but there is a lot of work to be done. So things are not perfect, as you can see. And we do have to learn from these things, and we do have to continue improving and ensuring that that our laws are working the way they're intended to work.
If you were, and this is probably a difficult question, just knowing how difficult this video was to watch, but if you were representing either of these two teachers that were caught on camera, whether it was the first teacher, who's reportedly Jennifer Dale, who swings at the student, and then the second teacher, reportedly Paxton Bean is her name, and she was the one sitting back in the chair, how could their attorneys approach this type of case? I mean, what defense could there be when this video is out there and they're facing charges? They're eventually going to have to defend themselves.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I think for me, it's hard to put myself in that situation. I think from my perspective, their defense is probably limited to damage control. And I know that's a harsh way to put it, but that video really does speak for itself.
Yeah.
Again, there's still a lot to be learned. It's an ongoing investigation, but I just don't know how you justify that behavior. Absent some claim, of course, that video is, artificial intelligence, that's the result of artificial intelligence or something like that. Absent some creative sort of out of this stratosphere argument, if they can prove that the behavior depicted on that video actually took place, that is a real uphill battle, and it should be, to be honest.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the video is less than a minute long, but it's so difficult to watch. And you just think of this young boy, nonverbal, the challenges he faces to have to go to school and deal with that. Everything's alleged, but we'll see how it plays out. Just last question for you. I think of the mom of this young boy. If she was to sue the school district, I mean, what goes into those types of, because from the outside you look and you're like, she's going to sue and can probably get whatever she wants, but I know it's more specific than that. What goes into determining if you were to bring a case against the school district, what the amount might be that you would be looking for?
It's hard to say. Different jurisdictions have different claims that can be, made, and there are different causes of action that plaintiffs can bring in different jurisdictions. California, I'm sure, is very different from Texas. I don't practice law in Texas. But, one of the things that just really, really struck a chord with me, not in a good way, was just hearing this mother say that her child was nonverbal and picked up the words, no school, home, because of this. And I mean, that's not a good thing, right? I mean, that's because of trauma. And I think that is extremely compelling. And so you put that before a jury and you explain for a jury that this child was so traumatized by what he went through at the hands of these people that were supposed to care for him and look after him, that he essentially broke through his previous nonverbal state. I think that that's so powerful that, who knows what the ceiling could be. But again, with this being an ongoing investigation, I think time will tell. There was also a reference made in the video clip that I saw that there were references being made to the genitalia of some of these children. So if to the extent that there may be claims for anything related to sexual abuse or anything in that arena. And again, I'm not saying that that is the case, but to the extent that that's possible, I mean, that just takes this into a different realm. And you know, it just, again, it really depends on what comes out in the investigation. But this is just an absolutely horrifying story. And it just goes to show you that we do have a lot of work to do, in the sense that you know, we have to continue trying to tailor our laws to ensure that they work for our children and for the vulnerable populations in our society, and not just write them, but implement them and ensure that they are working the way they should.
Yeah, so well put. And I know it was the CBS station in Dallas had the mom alleging that her son was given a shower without consent. So that does potentially open the door to, you know, the charges that the two teachers are facing right now. We'll see how that investigation progresses. This very well could be just the very beginning, but nonetheless, that video is just so tough to watch. Carla Waymeyer, thank you for taking the time to be with us, helping us break it down.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
At the time of this recording, all 3 suspects have bonded out of jail. For On the Case, presented by Law&Crime, I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.